Hello! This is our PSP group decision and decision.
And process video.
Yes. In case you have forgotten this whole semester, I'm Lacey.
I'm Paulina.
I'm Kenny. I'm Ben. And we are the team of dreams.
Yes.
So our provocative statement is that should minimum wage be increased to $15 an hour in the U.S.?
And we disagree with that.
So some supporting factors of not raising minimum wage, we believe a big decision would be that we believe that raising minimum wage will only help a small percentage of the poor. So even though it's believed that a lot of the poorer people will have more opportunities, that's not the case. There's a lot of factors to why people are suffering, and it's not just because of jobs, like education, the systems in play, race, they all play a huge role in why a person can't succeed. So by fixing one small problem as like a job, it's only going to help a small group of people. So there needs to be a lot more change in order to succeed in helping the poor overall, not just minimum wage. Something to support this is the author Kevin Hassett from LA Times. He states that President's proposal is to increase the minimum wage to $9 per hour, and it's believed that only 11.3% of workers would gain an increase to this.
The reason this will hurt small businesses is because of the drastic change in pay that the businesses will have to start out paying, which will run these businesses out. Being that raising the minimum wage will mean products would be sold more expensive. It follows the conclusion that the production will also be more expensive. Businesses will have to invest a lot more money and be in a way more competitive atmosphere. This will make it a lot more difficult for businesses to start and to continue successfully. This connects to the idea that raising the minimum wage will only be benefiting a certain group of people, especially businesses that are already successful. Bigger companies have the opportunity to outrun the many small businesses, which will result in monopolies. For instance, author William Duncanberg from Forbes states that an increase in the minimum wage of $1 an hour adds $16,000 to labor costs. Going to $15 an hour adds $128,000 to labor costs, almost 3 times the take-home pay of the owner.
Another decision that made us not want to increase minimum wage would be that it would decrease the needs of less skilled workers. With this, people who don't have as much skills will have to resort to taxless jobs like babysitting, house cleaning, pet walking, jobs like that. Many view raising minimum wage as giving less skilled workers more opportunities, but realistically it will cause them to rely on taxless jobs more, and as minimum wage raises, technology and production will also advance, which results in having people who have knowledge and are highly skilled workers. Given that there isn't a lot of taxless jobs even available, many will suffer by not having an opportunity to receive a job at all. So by not raising minimum wage, we have the opportunity to avoid this issue and provide more to less skilled workers than if we were to raise it. And then something to support this is from Rick Archer from the website ProQuest. He states that by the increased costs associated with a wage hike saddles employers with a dilemma. Wage hikes frequently force employers to cut jobs and scale back hours in order to maintain profits. So really, they wouldn't even be really needing unskilled workers, which wouldn't be benefiting the poor at all.
So we've been talking more about the arguments for not raising the minimum wage. Now we're gonna talk a little 2 arguments for why $15 is actually a good thing. So the first would be inexperienced workers and other workers that doesn't have any education or specific skills will be disadvantaged because without the skills, workers will have a minimum wage which is only $7.75 in Minnesota, and this is very low, and some people that earn this minimum wage sometimes worry about food or they worry about the daily life needs. And moreover, like people staying in the urban cities like Minneapolis or LA, the cost for rent for apartments are very high, that they will need roughly twice the minimum wage. For the second argument, it will be like losses in the benefits of healthcare. When people live around the poverty level or just make minimum wage, it is really hard for them to pay for quality healthcare. And research from the American Journal of Public Health states that between 2,800 to 5,000 premature deaths in New York alone could be prevented by raising the minimum wage to $15.
To explain how the decision outweighs loss, for instance, it only targets one economic class and leaves out a majority of people. Having a $15 minimum wage can help the labor workers and college students to pay for their living. But it only drives companies to hire less people, but also decrease the incentive for people to create startups, one of the main sources of new jobs. This means that more people will be unemployed, as there will not be anyone hiring. Another reason is it will make it more difficult for people to start small businesses and live the, quote, American dream because of company monopolies. It has been known that the American dream is to have equal opportunities among everyone. This means that anyone can start their own business and company if they're willing to. But with a $15 minimum wage law, that will hinder this notion of the American dream, as small businesses will not be able to keep up with the cost of employees to produce an affordable product.
And for the third argument, it will be like people working will have taxes that will create government revenue that can be used in funding and programs. And with increased $15 minimum wage, unemployment rates will increase and people will not have jobs. That means that the government will receive less taxes from people, which means that they will have less funding for schools. So the schools will have less teachers and hospitals will have less doctors. That will really disadvantage the citizens, which is us.
Whoa, I'm in. Okay, so now we're going to do the reflection piece of this. So one thing that we found helpful throughout this whole process was that we learned a lot better how to figure out what sources are reliable or not. And like that might seem kind of silly, but for most of us, when we go on to future jobs, if we want to be, if we want to go to grad school, whatever, it's going to be really important that we know how to distinguish between, sources that are reliable and not. And then another thing is, as leaders, it's really important to know which information is accurate or not. When we're able to figure out that information, we can then it helps us seek to understand, to help us become better leaders and part of a team. Another thing then is...
there are two sides to the story, and either way, one side will not benefit. No matter what a local or state government decides on a minimum wage, people will always be pushing to raise it, or say that the minimum wage is fine where it is. This goes back to the article that we read in class by Kidder, The Ethics of Rights versus Right. That sometimes there are two right ethical decisions, and we need to go with the one that feels is best for us. That is deciding with an individual versus community perspective, or mercy versus justice stance. We have to choose the one that seems the most important to us as leaders. It doesn't take one person's opinions to make a decision, so it is important to choose a side to be on. Both, however, could be on the right option, and we struggled with that quite a bit in choosing our provocative statement, whether to side with the $15 minimum wage or say it's fine where it was at.
Right. And then the third thing that we really reflected on and truly learned is that teamwork takes a lot of hard work. For us, all of us have really busy schedules. some of us have jobs, other of us are just really busy with sports and school. And so we had to communicate really well to be able to come together and get this whole process and project completed. Another thing is, because we all have different values and backgrounds, it was kind of difficult for us to come up with a concrete stance on how we felt about raising the minimum wage. And so we had to use different conflict strategies, and if that was including then our conflict chart here of our different animals to help us decide, kind of how we went along with the decision. It ultimately helped us become a better team and work together. And then just another 3 main connections to class had to do with ethics, privilege, and systems. Like Ben stated earlier, a big thing is the right versus right thing. So do we raise it for one class of people, or do we not raise it because it affects other types of people? And so it definitely comes down to how we feel, if we want to take an individual, community stance, or how we want to go about that. But that was really important for us and how we came about our decision.
Another important part would be what we learned about privilege. Like, no matter how much the minimum wage goes up, there's still going to be people who move forward, because obviously there's a lot of people who are more privileged than others, and it's going to be affecting others differently than it's going to be affecting people who already have a lot of money differently than who is very poor. And just by race, gender, where you were born, all that really plays a part in how you succeed, and that's an important part. And we related this back to class when we played the card game. You could have had all the right cards, but since you were in that position you couldn't move forward, and that's what a lot of people struggle with because of where they were born or what their background is. Another thing would be
just tying in the last thing would be systems. Like the Ruskin, the race discrimination systems article, there's going to be a lot of limitations to people, like education, neighborhood settings. Everything's going to change and affect different people's lives. And increasing the minimum wage could maybe benefit a lot of people and help, those situations. However, it's really important that we work towards all these other discriminations and all, privilege systems and ethics overall, and work on these littler problems than just one big, fix all, be all.
Because overall, all these different points go back to the fact that it's not just minimum wage that's an issue. It's these systems that are in play. It's these different rules that we've been following. So that's what we've been really looking into, and that's how we decided our decision.
Right. So like I said, we definitely tried to seek to understand. We used all of our different values and backgrounds when we came together and looked up different research, and then we dealt with some conflict. Like I said, we brought in our conflict animals a little bit to figure out how we were going to pick what side we were on.
And that's what helped us a lot figure out what we actually wanted to do. And from that, at the end of the day, we still decided that we disagree with raising minimum wage. We did research and met about it a lot, and we still agree not for it to be raised.
So that's where we're at, and thanks for watching.